I spoke to you earlier. Tell me your own situation. How bad is it for you?
Well, I paid 300,000 for my house, and now it's gone down to 175. I had 30,000 to invest in the house at the time from working. I'm not working anymore now.
And do you think you could have been given an early warning of the foolishness of your purchase, as they're now saying?
Yeah, definitely. Because if I'd have known, like, I would have been very busy at the time. If I'd have known that my work was going to dry up, I wouldn't have even thought of.
So you have no work, and you have 5 children, isn't that right?
5 kids, yeah.
Yeah. Are you in arrears?
I'm in arrears, and it's just going to get worse. Yeah.
Are you getting a bailout?
No.
You're getting no bailout. You're getting no help from the very banks who are coming to the taxpayer looking for help.
Well, I'm not in tune with what the banks brought out last week or anything, but as far as I'm concerned, at the end of the week, yeah, I'm smash broke, and it's not getting better. I don't see anything coming from anyone saying things are going to get better.
All right, any more hands over there? Yeah, I've got a lot of hands actually that I have. In the yes, over there, man with the beard.
As of this evening, there's over 40,000 mortgage holders in the country in arrears. What is the state going to do as a bailout for any of the citizens of this state? It seems to be all about bail out the banks, bail out, this area, with nothing about the people who are bailing the banks out and the people who are in serious arrears at the moment.
Okay, anyone got good things to say about this government?
No. There's a lot of talk here, Pat, about burning the bondholders. What we need to do is burn the political system, because all we're getting is a load of posturing. And for Minister Andrews to suggest that with the benefit of hindsight, you've had 2 years of this, you've repeatedly made mistakes. Even your plan now is out of date, because your own ERSI and the European are saying that the figures you're using are wrong. Now, what we need is a new government with people that aren't just playing to the crowd with fancy footwork.
Okay, now, can I just stop you there? Brian Hayes, your New Era document, one of the things it proposes to do is sell the family silver. Some of the semi-state companies, ESB, Bord Gáis, which would release billions. This plan, agreed between the EU and the IMF and our government, says quite specifically that any extra revenue has got to be used to pay down debt. So your plan to sell off these, get money, have job creation, stimulation, sorry, can't be done.
Yeah, under the negotiations that the government have done with the partners.
You're screwed. Your New Era is dead in the water.
Well, you see, here's the point. From my discussions that we had last week with these people, it seems to us that the ways and means of how we achieve the adjustment over the 4 or 5 year period and next year is very much down to domestic politics. And I believe it is the case that can be renegotiated. A new government with a new mandate with a fresh 5-year term can go back to these people and give our priorities. The notion, I mean, effectively, the idea that one group of people outside this country can tie the hands of the Irish people is an absolute abomination, Pat. And that's why I think a strong mandate for a new government, whenever that election comes, will allow us to renegotiate the parts of that agreement that should be renegotiated.
The other problem that you have, one of the New Era ideas is that you get semi-states to borrow money. Now, I don't know how the ones you've sold off are going to borrow money, but that's another question. Colin McCarthy said they would spot that 200 miles away as a gimmick to make it look like the state's not borrowing when in fact the state is.
But sure, all the negotiations change. I mean, we were told 2 months ago that you couldn't touch the National Pension Reserve Fund, and now, as part of the negotiations with the EU, it was a cornerstone of their negotiations. So there is huge flexibility depending on who is negotiating. Can I just make one other point, and it's this. I find it extraordinary that a negotiation between these people and our government should have precluded the opposition on probably the most important thing for our country over the next 5 years. I find it quite extraordinary that political opinion is put to one side and that those of us in opposition were not part and parcel to this negotiation, given the significance of it for a future generation.
OK, man here, what do you want to say?
I think blaming the banks and blaming the politicians is somewhat like blaming the rooster for the sun rising in the morning. What Ireland has gone through in the last 15, 20 years is not the weakness of a small country. It is the whole of Western civilization, the banking business in the whole of the Western civilization, North America, Europe and Ireland included. is bankrupt because we went off the gold standard.
All right, well, that's a debate, I have to say, for another day. PJ McAvoy, I recognise it there. What do you want to say, PJ?
Well, I think, first of all, Patrick, I think we're eluding ourselves if we think this political system is dead. Political systems is part of our democracy. We mightn't like who our politicians are, but they are our democracy. And if anybody thinks for a moment that if we had a different government, and I am not one way or another politically associated with any organisation, but if anybody thinks for a moment that if we had a different government over the last 3 years, the situation would be different. We're a small economy. We have 4 million people, half the population of, we'll say, London. We have...
Oh, OK, we get the point. We are at the mercy of a lot of events, but we get the politicians we deserve, is that?
No, yeah, well, there is other factors. No, there is other factors. And the other one point I'd just like to make, Pat. The fact is, we're so downbeat. We're so downbeat, here even as a group, about the negativities of everything that's happening. Everything that's happening is negative. And look at the people. I meet people on a daily basis.
Keep on reminding people that there are almost 1.9 people at work. The last time we had a recession, it was 1.2 million people working, so things are not quite as bad as they might be. Philippe, where do you see the way forward?
Well, I think if you ask me 10 years from now, I'm very optimistic about Ireland. I mean, all the advantages you had during the Celtic Tiger era have not disappeared. You have a well-educated workforce, you have a much better infrastructure, you have a host of international companies and increasingly domestic ones that are very successful exporters. So if you ask me 10 years from now, Ireland will be doing very well. It's just the next 5 years are going to be incredibly painful, and they needn't be that painful if you sorted out your banking mess now.
All right, and the final question for you, Minister. You're a Fianna Fáil blue blood. Your grandfather was one of the founders of the party. Your father, TD and a minister, your uncle, minister and MEP. I have to ask you, do you actually believe that Fianna Fáil deserve support in the next election, which is not too many months away?
Look, Pat, the political system is ripe for change, and it will be a very different country in 5 or 10 years' time. I hope that, on reflection at the next election, people will be able to say, well, you know what, they made the best effort they could, and they put the taxpayers first. Now, I think that...
Do you think that Fianna Fáil deserve to be back in government in one form or another?
Is that, on reflection, you will see that we put the taxpayer first. It's very hard in the very feverish atmosphere that you can hear now. In this feverish atmosphere, it's almost impossible to put that point without eliciting the kind of response I've just elicited. But I certainly believe that there are enough common sense people to know that we did the right thing.
But do you think... But just the question again, do you think that Fianna Fáil deserve
Well,
to be
I just
back in
answered that question, and
All right, OK. I won't belabor that point. Minister, thank you very much for being with us. Brian Hayes, thank you very much. Philippe Legrain, thank you very much. If you want to come to the front line